We don't have a lot of time, but we wanted to do a quick live and talk about um, how we chose the neighborhood in Rome where we decided to end up living. Because a few of you have been asking, how do you pick the neighborhood? And I think some people have been comparing it to places that they live in the US, especially Los Angeles. Like, where is the
which you,
Pasadena of Rome? Where is the,
which you cannot do.
you can't do, where's the Silver Lake of Rome? So,
No Silver
first,
Lake
let's
in
start
Rome.
there. Don't compare.
Don't compare apples and oranges, people. Apples and oranges.
Yes. When we were looking, we picked a few neighborhoods that were relatively close to the school that people had mentioned to us. That was kind of the starting point, I think, right?
It was. I mean, we had ideas just from having been here, but then you start to talk to people that are in like school communities and the Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff. And then you start to realize, well, we have to be a little bit more thoughtful than like where would be cool to live in Rome that we've been to and we love. Because what you realize is the last thing you want to do is live in or anywhere kind of near the center for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, a little too chaotic for us. So we started doing a little research, got suggestions, and then we kind of narrowed it down to a few neighborhoods that were within a short distance of the school. And one thing that people kept telling us over and over and over again was obviously driving in Rome can be very stressful and chaotic, and try and live
Insane.
the school as possible. This is the
Definitely.
best advice that anyone can give you.
Yeah.
If you're planning on moving to Rome, live close to the school.
Yeah. I mean, if your goal here is to come here with your kids, send your kids to school for any period of time, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you gotta be close to the school. It is not like, and you have to understand too, like when you put something in on Google Maps in Italy, it'll be like 15 minutes, but it's an Italian 15 minutes. It is not a normal 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes can grow so quickly. 30 minutes. You're like, 30 minutes? What's 30 minutes? Could be an hour, could be an hour and 15 minutes. Like things are just not always how they are seeming on the surface here. So you
Yeah.
really gotta, I think, make the consideration to be as conveniently located near your school as possible.
If you have kids. I mean, I think
If
we're
you have
speaking
kids.
from a place of having children that have to get to school. We didn't want to send them on the bus. So it was we were going to be driving, and what did that look like for our life? Because we don't want to be spending 2 hours driving there and 2 hours driving back.
Yeah,
We're about 12 to 15 minutes from school, and but there are times where there's a lot of traffic, and it takes 30 minutes to get home.
definitely.
So, definitely something to consider. We also just didn't have a lot of options when we were looking because there was almost no inventory available online, when we were moving. This was last year around April is when we were looking.
And in general, inventory for apartments and finding an apartment in Rome, in almost any place in Italy, actually, I would say all places in Italy, um, is difficult to do. And even though you have like real estate websites that have, apartment rentals on them, it's just so much more complicated than just looking it up online and finding a place and calling and like contending for that apartment. So it takes time to find a place here, and once you get the place or in the running for a place,
It
it
takes
can
more
take
time.
it can take more time, like month, 2 months, 3 months. So, it's really important to be patient with that. But more importantly, talking about driving and neighborhoods, for us, it was important to be close to school. If you're not, focused on, sending your kids to school, you have a lot more options that can be a little bit more convenient to access the city center. We happen to live in an amazing neighborhood that's like in the center, but it's off center and it's not in the fire of all like the tourist chaos and insanity. but it's close enough that, like, if we wanna walk into the center, we can be in the center in 30 minutes, 35 minutes, which sounds like a lot, but, it's really not so bad. It's just really in this kinda heat, which we're in right now, that it's just brutal, but
Yeah. I think another thing that mattered to us was being in a neighborhood where you could walk to things. There are neighborhoods that are more outside where you actually have to like really drive in to do anything. And so it was important to us to feel like we were living in Rome, that we could walk
definitely.
around. We have parks that we can walk to. We have markets and bakeries and all the things around us, and we really walk now. We're not driving everywhere. So if that's something that you want to be a part of your daily life, you need to consider that as well when you look to where that apartment or house is located. I mean,
And
it's mainly going to be
typically, it's
apartments if you're in the city.
yeah, it's worth noting that, like, the European lifestyle revolves around cities, small
Yeah,
cities, villages, things like that. It's not really like you don't you do not have like suburbs in the same way that you have them in America. And typically a lot of the areas that are in the immediate outskirts of the cities are not very nice, not very comfortable, not necessarily super safe, and they're like hyper local in many cases, and it's really hard, I think, for expats or people like that to find comfort in a lot of those kind of areas. There's little pockets and communities of places and like gated communities of things here because it's just, again, it's like apples and oranges. Things are just very different here from a neighborhood and in how America is.
yeah.
But you know, if your goal is to kind of live in, you know, Milan or Rome or Florence, it's really nice to have that convenience of being close to the city or being a part of the city. And then if you're outside of it, it's a lot more challenging for people we know to have like come in or to come in when they want and things like that. There is like a very big separation from how far you live from the city and the access that you have to a lot of stuff.
And I think especially when it comes to kids, play dates, birthday parties, all of these things, if you live really far away, I mean, if you're up for it and you're doing the driving, I guess that's something you're just accepting you're going to have to do. But um, it is hard if you have these birthday parties that are after school, which is very common in Italy. School gets out, and then the birthday party is after school from like 5 to 7 p.m., which
The
is
worst.
difficult. But yeah, just play dates and also, when your kids get to a certain age where you want them to have a little bit of freedom, maybe walking to a friend's house, things like that. Obviously, it's going to be harder if you live far outside the city and are having to drive into everything. So I do think for families, it's something to consider. How close you are to the other families that are in the international community or are Italians that are living in these neighborhoods that go to the schools you go to.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I would agree.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to go get the kids from camp.
Ciao, guys. We'll see you soon.
Ciao.